Okay, thank you, Adrian, for setting up this, let's say, introductory call to our upcoming workshop. So I'll briefly introduce myself. My name is Alan Mangeni. So I am a software developer based in Nairobi, Kenya, and I currently work for Filecoin Foundation, whereby I do developer advocate activities in Kenya. So that entails onboarding developers to the ecosystem and also providing an avenue for local companies to migrate their data storage services from traditional systems to the Filecoin ecosystem. So to kick things off, I'll just say Filecoin is a decentralized data storage network, and the inspiration around it is basically, I'd say, having a decentralized system whereby there are different, whereby like the storage provision services is not limited to one corporation or one entity. So with Filecoin, instead of like one company or one institution providing data storage services, we have a network whereby there are different storage providers around the world, and this can be individuals or organizations that come together to form this huge network of data storage providers. So, and the incentive around it is that they get paid in crypto. That's why on the slide below you can see Filecoin is a crypto-powered network. So we could think of it as BitTorrent, but the major difference is the economic incentive around it, in that storage providers are paid to store people's data, and here we have something called IPFS. So IPFS is one of the first products to be created within the Filecoin ecosystem. So it is a peer-to-peer, say, file storage system, and it is different from HTTP with the fact that you don't need a central server to share information or share data. With IPFS, it is on a distributed network whereby there is no central entity that governs how the data is handled or how the information is distributed. So with another difference with HTTP and IPFS is HTTP uses the domain name system, while IPFS uses content identifiers or hashes. These are some of the things that we'll get to look at during the workshop. I'm just talking about the products within the ecosystem. So far we've covered what is Filecoin, what is IPFS, what is libp2p. So libp2p is the modular network stack for peer-to-peer protocols. Think of it as like the base layer or the infrastructure in which IPFS and Filecoin is built. So here on top, I'm sure maybe some of you have heard of some of these protocols like Polkadot, Enigma, Harmony, Ethereum. So all these networks are built around libp2p. So libp2p is considered like the base infrastructure for the Filecoin, or rather the generally most of the Web3 ecosystem, and it comes in various implementations which we will get to touch on. And these implementations are a good avenue for people who want to get into open source contribution. And I'd say I also got into Web3 via this implementation. So I was working under the Python P2P library. So this was back in around 2018. And I'd say it has been a great way to learn from senior software engineers. And one good thing with like the open source contribution aspect is you don't need permission from anyone. You just have to learn maybe a programming language, let's say like Python or JavaScript. Once you understand some basic aspects of it, you could embark on a project like this one. So you could it could be as simple as debugging the library, then you submit an issue, then eventually your pull request is merged. So I'd say it is a fun way to learn as a student or as a software engineer getting into the Web3 ecosystem. So these are some of the things that we'll get to touch on in the Filecoin ecosystem. So the Filecoin ecosystem encompasses basically these organizations, which is the Filecoin Foundation, which is the non-profit arm, the social impact arm of the Filecoin ecosystem. Then we have Protocol Labs. So Protocol Labs is basically a research and development company, and it is the company behind the Filecoin network, IPFS, and many other organizations. Filecoin Green is like the climate impact organization to the Filecoin ecosystem. And so I just wanted to cover some basics of what Filecoin is and generally the ecosystem around it. So before I proceed, if I proceed with anything else, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to type in.
I have a question.
Yes.
So what are some of the open source projects that maybe our students can use to learn stuff to do with Web3? Maybe from Filecoin, or which ones would you recommend?
Okay, let me just share my screen on the Filecoin GitHub page. So as I mentioned earlier, Filecoin is generally an open network. So by it being open, most of the repositories or most of the projects around it are open source. So the best way would be to simply come to the GitHub page and look at the GitHub page is simply called Filecoin project, and you can look at the repositories. I'd recommend starting with the Filecoin improvement proposals. So here you could take a look at like some of the proposals that are being say proposed by individuals or companies that are interested in improving or maintaining the ecosystem. So with these FIPs, they have been in existence for a while, and I'd say they are the core they basically play a key role in maintaining and growing the ecosystem. So by going to the FIP page, you could learn more on how the FIPs within the Filecoin ecosystem works and those kind of things. Aside from that, there are other implementations like Lotus, which is a reference implementation of the Filecoin protocol. So I'd say it all comes down to the programming language you understand, and it doesn't matter whether you're a beginner or like a pro. You could just come to the repository since it's open source. Look at the some of the repositories and where you find yourself, where you're comfortable, is where maybe you can now begin to dive deep and check out like the current issues. So you could see an issue with like a bug that needs to be fixed, maybe API integrations, but mostly here you'd find like bugs. So if you are if you want to maybe kickstart with the Falcon project, you could look at how you can fix a bug, which I'd say it's one of the easiest ways to test your skills as a software developer. So you could look at the issues, look at the bugs, and maybe how you could fix it or make an improvement. Yeah, I hope that answers
So
the
thank you.
question. Another thing we'll be talking about is the grants and how you could apply for a grant. So these are some of the discussions we will have during the meetup. So grants play an essential role to to sort of fund your project. Let's say you have like an idea that you would like to implement, but you lack the resources. So the Falcon grants are a great avenue to apply for funding, and it will take you to the next step uh, of your project. So I'll share more about the grants and also accelerators that are providing resources, funding opportunities within the Filecoin ecosystem. So any question before we proceed?
Hello.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, so you had mentioned something to do with the IFPs.
Yes, IPFS.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, so I didn't quite understand on what it entails. Can you please explain?
Okay. So IPFS, in full, interplanetary file system, is a peer-to-peer file sharing system, or rather peer-to-peer data storage system. So in simple terms, you could use IPFS to deploy your web application or store your files. And let me just show a slide. So to explain a simple example of how IPFS would work, this is Web3 enabled architecture. So by architecture, it would mean like the entire, let's say, web application or mobile application. So on the front end side, we have like the Web2 or Web3 solutions. This will be like front end frameworks like React and such kind of things. On the logic side, we have smart contracts, which state the application logic or how the application would run. Then now on the other side, we have what we refer to as the storage or the storage ecosystem. So this is where the data of your application is stored. So with the Web3 enabled architecture, you'd maybe use storage helpers, or you'll just store your data directly on IPFS. So with IPFS, you could use it to store the data of your application, or to simply deploy your application to the, say, to like a Web3 network. So IPFS is a simply, in simple terms, it's a peer-to-peer file storage system. So it is similar to Filecoin actually, in terms of the tech infrastructure behind it. But the major difference is that IPFS, I'd say it's a voluntary peer-to-peer file storage system, and people are not paid to store their data, to store people's data. But with Filecoin, it's an economic incentive-based storage system, whereby people pay to store data, and that would be the major difference. Another difference would be Filecoin is provides permanent storage services, meaning when you store your data on Filecoin, it is replicated up to 6 times across different storage providers. But with IPFS, the data is not replicated across different storage providers, because it's just voluntary, or more of like an open source storage provision network. I hope that answers the question. Yes, I've seen you've raised your hand.
Yes, it answers. But you've also mentioned that APFS and Filecoin, they're dissimilar in just the aspect of storage.
Yeah.
So this raises another question, that is Filecoin just more of storage for, I see, I'm not familiar with the Web3 working, so is Filecoin the same as cloud, but just for Web3 application?
It's the same as cloud, but it's not limited to Web3 applications. So with Filecoin, currently you could do the same things you do on AWS cloud. For example, like running S3 instances. Those are some of the things you could do with the Filecoin network. and you have like the same commands to run such instances. So it shares a similar tech stack to like the traditional cloud systems like AWS, GCP. So that's how it works basically, and it's not limited to just Web3 applications. Normal applications like Twitter, even this you could literally use Filecoin to run uh, normal applications basically. So WhatsApp can run on Filecoin. Any application can run on the network. So another question on the data. If the data is replicated and I want to remove it permanently from Filecoin, yeah, it's possible because there's steps involved in storing your data, and your data can be removed if you wish to like uh, delete your information, although it's like a lengthy process, but it's something that's achievable. So is there any other question? Yes.
Yeah, will it be possible to maybe get credit so that we're able to host our projects on the Filecoin platform? Because some of us have final year projects and we could, really use such a platform for deployment. So, are there maybe
Yeah,
ways
yeah,
we
yeah.
can? Hmm.
Yeah, it's possible, and you could get free tires on certain applications. I would say like from this presentation, we have something called storage helpers. So these helpers like simplify the process to store your data on IPFS or Filecoin. So they have like free tiers on like the amount of data that you'd like to store, and if you're handling like large data sets, you could apply for a grant as well to enable you have enough resources to deploy your application and also maintain it in the long run.
Okay,
So
thank you.
during the upcoming workshop, I'll be able to touch on some of these storage helpers like estuary, space, there's Flick, there's so many more that help the storage, help with storing your data. So the workshop, will be held on 15th. So during this day, I'd advise you to come with your laptop during the session, because we'll be doing some hands-on demos. So on how you could like deploy your application on the Filecoin network, and also how maybe you could store your data on Filecoin. There will be food. Food will be available. We'll also have some swag, some T-shirts and stickers during the session, and we'll have like an interactive fun gaming session, and there we'll have different types of rewards. I'll keep that to myself until the day of the event. So you're all welcome to join. We have like a good number so far signing up. Let's pump those numbers, and I'm sure it will be a fun way to learn and to join the Web3 ecosystem. So is there any question maybe regarding the event? If you have any question on like logistics, feel free to ask.
Question.
Yes.
Are we supposed to install anything prior to the event, or we just come as we are?
It could come as you are. I just hope there'll be access to the internet so as to make because most of the tools or the resources are online based. I think if there is no other question, I'll leave Adrian to maybe wind up things.
Yeah. So I think if there are more questions, people will ask during the workshop. So
Yes.
yeah. So I think with that we can end the session. It's recorded, so we'll post it on YouTube if people will want to refer back to it. But yeah, I think that's it, Alan. Thank you for the session. And thank you guys for participating. And we'll see you on Thursday afternoon.
Thank you.